As I lay dying, as I lay quitting, as I lay dead, as I lay convicted, as I lay in prison, like the puns never stop with this band, man. Now, I feel like most of you guys are already aware of what's going on with the band. I feel like you're already aware of the history, but for people that don't know the history, because there's some people out there, I even found out Drew Fortune and Steve OG, you know, we have a podcast together, and they didn't know anything about As I Lay Dying.
Am I breaking the news to you guys? Oh, wow.
I'm not into As I Lay Dying, so
this
like
is
As I Lay Dying track. So
oh my god, this is huge. This is
people
one
are
of the
screaming
biggest.
at their YouTubes right now.
So I'll just give a quick crash course into the history, but really my angle with this video is talking about separating the art from the artist and where I stand when it comes to reviewing their music and if they actually continue this new album cycle, because it's not looking like it's coming out anytime soon. But with As I Lay Dying, they're one of the OG metalcore bands, and they were awesome, man. Riffy, a little bit punky, right? Just high energy guitar solos. They were just an awesome band, and An Ocean Between Us was one of the best metalcore records for me back in the day. Like, that stuff was peak. So high energy, so many good riffs, also a little bit like proggy at times. Like, I loved it. And then what ended up happening was Tim LaBeouf, the vocalist, started to get all jacked up, juiced up. Yeah, not natty. Like, actually, not natty. And he started to lose his cool, and he eventually got into a really ugly divorce with his ex-wife, very ex-wife, where he was losing custody of his children, and he was confined into someone at this gym that he would go to, and he confided so much that he was telling this guy at the gym that he wanted to do some really unlawful, immorally wrong things to harm what used to be the love of his life, I assume, right? And I'm not going to do a deep dive into this. It's already been covered so many times, but it's ugly, it's gross, it's so wrong. And as a fan of the band, it's shocking. It was shocking, man, when it was going on. I couldn't believe it. Like, the biggest news tabloids were covering it. They were covering a metalcore band. I was shocked. So he was in prison for 6 years, but then he came back, and he came back with the members like Nick and stuff and Josh. And I was kind of excited, but also reluctant, because the one thing that they were kind of positioning themselves as was like kind of Tim trying to ask for forgiveness and right his wrong into right. So they had this like discussion video where everyone was mad at Tim, and it was a little bit awkward, but it also felt very transparent, which was, I thought, was like kind of a decent thing to do.
I told her, I was like, Tim's out, and we've been trying to live our lives away from the fear that this day is like bringing, you know?
But Tim's whole thing has been trying to become a better person, and hopefully from this evil, wrong thing that he did, there could be some sort of light and maybe teach others a way of becoming better people and how to handle these high stress situations, I guess. But, you know, asking for forgiveness from the fans, he almost doesn't really ask for that because he doesn't really expect it. And it's not easy. And as a fan myself, you know, listening to the new albums, My Own Grave, that song on its own is a banger. But it is still tough for me to separate the art from the artist, and it always has been. It always has been. I may not talk about it too much, but it's always been tough to just, you know, really like go like, yeah, Tim. Oh, hell yeah, Tim. Love you, Tim. It's more like, yeah, these are still some sick songs. I can jam out to it at the gym without thinking about the history of the band too much. But, you know, what ended up happening was all the members of As I Lay Dying were pretty much quitting except for Tim. Nick left, you know, he made Woven War with Shane Blay from Oh Sleeper, which was, they're sick. Oh Sleeper's amazing. You never thought you'd beat me for the market. What do you expect when you sold your name? You have a chance to rise again. But then Josh, the bassist, left, and now he's in Spirit Box, and he's crushing it at Spirit Box, right? So now it's like, okay, all the members left, and, you know, it seems like the common problem is still Tim. Who would have thought? Who would have thought? But now He recruited a bunch of new members from Unearth, another OG metalcore band, Miss May I, like sort of OG metalcore, but still metalcore. And the new songs have been good. I really liked what the new members are doing. I liked what Ryan was doing. I thought the clean vocals were good, like similar to Josh, but not different enough to make it feel kind of fresh. So I've been enjoying the songs, but it's still been tough to separate the art from the artist. It's not like in the back of my head. This is one of those bands that's always been tough for me to really separate the art from the artist. Now, one thing is that there are some musician people that I know that have said some really positive things about Tim and how he is a good person. And when you hear other people talk about him in a positive light, and you know, when you see Tim go on these popular metal podcasts too, you see that he's trying to be a good person. And I think that's where I'm kind of still listening to the music. Although as a fan, you know, I'm still conflicted, very conflicted, but at least, again, maybe you can turn these awful wrongs into rights. Well, what ended up happening was, as you are all aware, pretty much all the new members to this new album cycle, which is, the album is still not even out. They're all leaving. Okay. Ryan was the first to go. They're the bassist. Then the tour manager left, and now all the tour dates are canceled. Ken left. Nick left, the drummer. But they're all making their statements. But there's one statement that really stands out for me, and that's Ken, the guitarist. He basically mentioned, unfortunately, my personal morals have recently been tested to a breaking point, and it's now the saddest ending to what could have been the greatest second chance for this band. My personal morals have recently been tested. Morals have always been tested for me when listening to this band. It just seems like an actual thing, a word to correlate to As I Lay Dying. As I Lay Dying, morals, conviction, prison. Those are words that surround the As I Lay Dying brand to me. And I feel so bad for these musicians who were joining this band and find this opportunity, but they were joining a sinking ship, right? It's interesting that I said the greatest second chance of the band, but as like a fan of the band, it feels like a third chance. You know, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Fool me thrice, then I feel like an idiot, right? Like that's honestly how I kind of feel. And, you know, this comes into the main point of the video, which is separating art from the artist, which I've always been conflicted with As I Lay Dying. But when there's other bands who, you know, they share their opinions online or post photos with people that people don't like in the scene, like I don't care about that. People are welcome to have their opinions. Different opinions is what, you know, human nature's always been about. It's always just been about having healthy discourse and coming to a healthy solution to all these problems that we have in the world. So that's why I don't let these people dictate what I do with my channel. I make videos based off the songs and the bands that I want to talk about. If you have a difference of opinion with the musicians in these bands, then that's on you and that's not on me. But when you're like someone like Tim Lambesis, who's been in prison for 6 years for doing something so heinous and unlawful, and then has a track record of all these friends leaving you, how can a fan still want to support that? So I have a really hard time separating the art from the artists with this band, and I always have. And we still don't know the reason why these new members have left. There's a lot of speculation. There's a lot of drama. You know, I'm not here to speculate. I feel like we're probably going to have much more information later on. Phil, the guitarist, has made a statement that he's going to make a statement, and Phil's been in the band since 2003. So he knows very well what's going on. They all do. But again, we're not here to speculate. I'm just talking about my feelings towards this band. It's unfortunate news. I just don't even know if I even want to cover the new album. And the reason is I'm just so annoyed with this stuff, and it's so predictable. That's another thing. Oh, it's As I Lay Dying having all this drama. You know, if it was like Metallica or something, it would be like, this would be shocking, right? But it's As I Lay Dying. It's like, oh, more shit went down, right? Like, now I have covered As I Lay Dying's new stuff, and it's because I have enjoyed the singles. And there also is a fan base. And I think that fan base was like B2, that were kind of giving Tim a second chance, now like a third chance, right? But I feel like majority of people are just over it. They're over this stuff. And one thing to consider when I'm making As I Lay Dying videos is that they do pretty well in views. But with that being said, the As I Lay Dying fans who maybe could be stuck in the past, who only listen to OG metalcore, I encourage you to listen to some of the new bands in the scene right now, because a lot of the new bands are incorporating OG metalcore riffing, like Boundaries. Boundaries is a band that dropped one of the best albums of the year. And if you like As Lay Dying, check out Boundaries, okay? It's not the same, but there's some OG raw sounding stuff that you might appreciate. And that's where I'm getting at. Check out the new bands. The new wave of metalcore is kicking ass. A lot of awesome bands are coming out of the scene, and I love the current state of metalcore right now. It's just as good as the OG metalcore days. And like I said, OG As Lay Dying from the early 2000s was still peak. It could never be topped. So even listening to new As Lay Dying stuff, it's not hitting the same. It never has. OG As Lay Dying is still the best era. So in a way, I'm going to leave this band in the past. Now, I appreciate the work that Ken, Ryan, Nick have done. They've done some solid stuff to reinvigorate the band a little bit. But even then, it still feels like Tim LaBeouf's band. And the stuff from Ocean Between Us, Shadows of Security are better than anything from any other album. And especially this new era, which this new era is donezo. It's done. At least for me, like As I Lay Dead to me. But thanks guys for watching. Well, on that, thank you for tuning in. Till next time. Peace.